What's up, guys? MC Stu here, and today we're going to take a look at some of the rewards in the winter event store. These are going to be items that you're going to be able to purchase with the ornaments that you've been collecting through this event. I'm not going to go through every single thing. We're just going to do kind of a overview of what's in it, and then just take a look at some of the things that I personally find useful to me. And that's not to say some of the things that I don't identify or that we don't look at are not useful. Some of them are somewhat build specific, and some of them are also just preference. You like them, use them. So I'm just going to go over the things that I use and that I find valuable to me. So to access the winter event store, you're going to click on your mission journal here, and we're going to go to events. And we're going to make sure that we have, actually it doesn't matter which one you have selected here. So down here at the bottom, we're going to have event store. And we're going to click on that. And you can also access the summer event store through this menu as well. So the first couple items here are going to be you can trade in Lobby for holiday ornaments. I would not do that. It's not worth it. You can also earn fragments in some of these events, and you can trade 5 fragments in for an ornament. Pretty straightforward. The entire top of the list here is going to be a ton of costume stuff. So this is all personal preference, whatever it is that you like. There's a couple items in here that I think are kind of cool and useful even outside of the winter event, because some of this stuff obviously is going to be theme oriented, blue, and have kind of funny stuff on their Santa hats and those kinds of things. But there are some items in here that you could use outside of this event and look pretty nice. Let's see if I can find them. There is a lot of stuff here. So this one I think looks really good. It's kind of sleek, black. You could use it as, a Section 31 cosplay, or, there's quite a few other things that you could use this for, but it's not very theme specific, so I personally like it and use it fairly often. One thing to note, you cannot change the colors on these. So a lot of your other costume items, you can slots that are stock or you unlock, you can change the color schemes and stuff. The winter event stuff, you cannot change those. So if you buy a black one, it's going to be black. If you buy a purple one, it's going to be purple. The other one that I like, it's kind of more of a I don't know, bootlegging Han Solo kind of a look to me. There's this one, and then there's also a brown one that looks pretty good as well. The rust one looks pretty decent too. And then there's quite a few things in here for female characters. The crop tops, which are nice, and some of even the more festive colors, will work outside of the winter event as well. So those are just a couple of the items in the costume stuff that you could pick up. You can go through the rest of it yourself and look at the things that you like. If you right-click on it, you'll get a little sample of what that's going to look like. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the ground equipment. Most of this stuff, to me, is more of, again, Space Barbie. Looks cool, looks really cool, and you're swinging it around, they light up. All of these that light up are going to do plasma damage. To me, they're not overly useful. Again, it's more of just, they look really cool and you can kind of have fun doing that. Anything that doesn't, fully light up is going to do your standard physical damage on ground like you would expect from a sword or something like that. But basically there's, these different bathlets that light up different colors essentially. And because they light up, to explain that, they're going to do plasma damage to the enemy. As for the Breen set, I again have still not purchased this and checked it out, so I really can't speak to it. Augie has a pretty in-depth video specifically on this. I'll link it down in the description for you guys. I have been getting questions. I just have not had a chance to get this slotted and check it out for myself. But I would definitely recommend going over and checking his video out on it. It's specifically on this cold build and looks pretty interesting. I've watched most of it. All right, as we scroll down here more, we're going to get into our ground kit modules. Some of these are going to be class specific, and again, you can kind of go through these and see what would make sense for your particular class if you wanted to use them. On ground, I generally am looking for things that are going to do AoEs and that are also going to be doing debuffing, so damage resistance debuffs. So there's a couple in particular that are pretty decent when we get down into the universal kit modules, so these can be used on any class. This one here is the Cryovisor Blast, and the main reason I like this is for the negative 30% damage resistance rating. which is a pretty nice damage resistance debuff. The nice thing also is it's an area of effect, so it's going to give you a 5-meter radius that gives a slick path where it basically makes your enemies kind of slide around a bit, and it's also going to debuff all of them. The damage it does isn't a ton. You're getting some cold damage, and again, if you were to couple this, say, with the Breen set, which is going to be boosting cold damage, this might even be more effective in terms of the damage output of it. But for me, the big selling point is that negative damage resistance. So if you're going to use something like Praxton Bomb that pulls a bunch of the enemies together, and then you hit them with this, you're going to debuff all of those enemies at once. And if you're using other AoE that are focused more on damage, then you're going to be able to do a lot to a large group of people. So pull them all together, debuff all of them, and then do damage to all of them. So stringing all of that together is really going to be the way to go. All right, next, Collective Nightmare. This one's pretty interesting. So this one will cause the enemies to attack each other, and that's that 40% chance to apply Nightmare, and it turns them into like monsters that start attacking each other, and they're doing damage to each other. And again, this is also doing a negative 46.5% all damage resistance rating for 23 seconds. That's huge. So that's a massive debuff where you can really start chipping away at the enemies there. All right, next for the ground, Torment from the Underworld. This is another decent one that I like to use. So this is going to do psionic damage, and it's also going to do a negative 33% of all damage, negative 33% to all damage. So basically it reduces the amount of damage that the enemy is going to be able to do to you. So when you start to stack these up, you're using a control, pull them together, debuff them so you're damaging them more. A AoE that's going to damage that group of people, and then you're also going to be able to reduce the amount of damage that they're doing to you. So again, depending on how your build is and the other kit modules that you're using, you might say, well, that's not going to do anything for me, and that might be 100% right. So again, I can only speak from my perspective and the way that I've built some of my characters, and there's a ton of stuff in here that could be very, very useful depending on what exactly you're building for, and your play style. All right, so let's go ahead and keep scrolling down here. So when we get in the training manuals, I don't use much of these for the ground training manuals. I mean, I don't use much training manuals at all for ground, to be completely honest. Although there is a use for them, I just don't. So let's get down to the starship equipment. All right, so we have, ooh, that's freaking out. Is it going to do it again? Yep. That's weird that it's doing that to me. Let's just right click on it. Okay, so we have the warp core here. This is a part of the it's the Absolute Zero Breen set. And the rest of this actually comes from some missions that are, quote unquote hidden now. If you're a newer player, they are accessible. I'm going to be doing a video on that. It's similar to the Lost Dominion arc that I did a video on a few weeks back, where it was in the game. It was a part of, your story mission arcs, but it was pulled, but it is still accessible. But you got to jump through some hoops in order to get a hold of these missions. And the rest of the equipment for this set are in those missions. So I don't know that, I mean, for free to play there, you could use the set and it's okay. I like using the deflector on science builds. It has a decent amount of control ability on it. But you'll have to judge for yourself whether or not this set or this warp core is going to be useful to you. The warp core by itself, there is plenty of other much better warp cores that you could get your hands on for basically free mission drop, or crafted, or next to nothing on the exchange. So unless you're wanting to complete this Breen set, personally for me there's not a big use in it. Okay, let's talk about the endothermic inhibiting beam. This I'll use for filler sometimes. There's some ships and some builds I'll put together, especially on like my free to play, where it just has more seating in certain instances than I need. And so in those kind of cases, I tend to have some go-tos that I'll just kind of fill them with. They do a little bit of damage. They help in, you know, a decent amount of way to where they're worth just slapping on there. This is one of them. I wouldn't go out and just get it to fill it. I mean, there's a lot of other free ones you could get, but I've picked these up in the past to test them and things like that, and so I'll use it sometimes if I need to fill a spot. But this is going to be pretty down, you know, low down on the list for the you know, for filler stuff. So I wouldn't make that your first choice. Now, the ones that I use quite a bit are going to be these next two here. And let's just, we'll take a look at the level 1 version of it. Okay, so this does some cold damage. It's basically next to nothing. It's not going to do a lot for you. But as with some of the kit modules, this is going to offer you a huge amount of damage resistance debuff. This actually does a stacking debuff over time. So -5 all damage resistance rating every second for 20 seconds. So that's going to add up to be quite a bit of damage resistance that, you know, debuff that you're going to be able to put on a target. Generally, I'm going to use these for larger targets. It's not a must-have on my DPS builds, but if we're looking at tanking or doing some sort of a support build, this is definitely going to be a must-have to help the team debuff those larger targets. If you need to fill a spot in engineering, this is definitely worth having. This will make a big difference when you're going up against the larger targets that have a lot of hit points. And that is Let It Go. 1, 2, or 3, whatever you can fit. Even if it's just one, it's decent. Okay, for the science slot here, Very Cold in Space is another one that I'll use for filler. So this is going to create a level 1 cryonic turbulence. It's basically kind of a little blizzard patch in space for 15 seconds. It's going to have a radius or a diameter of 3 kilometers, and this is going to reduce the flight speed of the enemy. This is also going, is it flight speed? Yeah, flight speed and flight friction, negative flight friction. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm assuming it's going to slow them down 50%. I don't know how that's different, though, from reducing the flight speed. If someone can make sense of that, that would be sweet. And then it's going to do some cold damage, ignoring shields. I find on some science builds, this can actually do some fairly decent damage as an area of effect. There's certainly better stuff, but it can do pretty well. So if you're a free-to-play player, you're doing a science build, this is something I would definitely fit in. If you're doing any other kind of build and you just have too many science slots on a particular ship, this is a good filler one that will help, slow enemies down, keep them in, a smaller spot, and do a little bit of damage. It's not going to do a ton of that cold damage. It's going to do a lot more than Let It Go. But on something that's not built for science or EPG, you're not going to get as much out of it in terms of the damage side. So those are mainly the bridge officer training manuals that I use. These tactical ones are not real great for much there. All right, so let's scroll down farther. So here's all our vanity pets. This stuff's all pretty self-explanatory. I thought they showed previews, which it's going to be a real bummer if they don't. Nope, I'm not seeing previews. So that's kind of a bummer. But you can look those up on the wiki. I think I might have 1 or 2 of them, maybe. I have the snowman. Some of these are going to be animated. They will only be animated during the winter event. The rest of the year, they'll basically be a statue. So my snowman, the rest of the year, just looks like a statue standing there. While the Christmas or winter event is running, it'll be animated and be running around and doing things. All right, we have Q's throne replica. You've probably seen people around. They're sitting in Q's throne. If you pick this up, then you can summon this, and you'll be sitting there in his throne. I believe these are consumed on use. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that these, once you use it, that's it. I might be wrong about that. Let me know, guys, down in the comments. I have not messed with that personally. Snowballs. Don't waste your ornaments on these. There's no reason. They end up melting as well. You can also pick these up all around the map. So if you need snowballs, just run around the map and pick them up. All right, frost boots. Everybody needs to get themselves a pair of these. Number one, they're fun. They'll make you slide around. They also increase your run speed by quite a bit. If you find yourself on a ground map that's large, it's nice to go ahead and click these on and get around that map a little bit faster. And like I said, they're quite a bit of fun, and they look cool. They make your boots light up and look like they're iced over. So for some Space Barbie stuff, these can actually go together pretty good. In fact, my green suit, if I activate these, it really kind of completes the whole thing and makes it look pretty cool. All right, and then lastly, we have gear that's specific to the winter's the Q's Winter Wonderland. These are all things that are only going to be useful here. They're not going to be useful anywhere else, any other time of the year on any other map. So I'd pick yourself up one and, use it. If you have just tons and tons of these ornaments, and you've got some of the other stuff, then go for it. I started buying all kinds of stuff just for fun. I don't know that any are really better than others. Get yourself a weapon, get yourself some of the, they're not kit modules, they're actually devices, which is kind of interesting. I did pick up this one, which is the Shaved Ice Fury, the Gateway. And so it creates this kind of pixely looking kind of little storm cloud, and it fires, some kind of ice damage beam out of it. It's really, really cool, but it has a 4-minute cooldown, which is outrageous. So you're basically going to only be using this pretty much 1 or 2 times per each of the little mini events that are happening on the map. There's mines or exploding gummies you can pick up. Again, this is all going to be personal preference. If you ask me which one's better than the other, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. Because from what I found, they all basically get it done. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that. Let me know. But let me know what your guys' favorite ones are. I personally like this one here. It's not going to show it, and I don't have it equipped at the moment, but it looks like a huge Nerf gun, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's in here, but again, just know this is just going to be for fun during the winter events. You're not going to be able to use this stuff during the rest of the year at all. All right, so lastly, we are going to jump up to space, and we're going to take a look at the Vanity Shield so you guys can see that and see if that's something worth getting. It's one of the more expensive things here on the list, and so we want to make sure that we like that. I feel like it gives things kind of a red wood kind of look to it. So let's go ahead and jump up to space, take a look at that, and you guys can see what you think yourself. All right, we'll go ahead and start with the Vengeance, and then I'll put it on a couple other ships so we can get an idea of what that looks like. Sometimes these shields, they have different effects kind of on different ships depending on the way that these skins are created. So let's go ahead and put it on the Vengeance here. So the Vengeance still looks pretty dark, looks kind of rusty looking. I'm kind of almost taking back the wood look that I stated earlier. I don't think it looks very good on this ship at all. Let's go ahead and jump into another ship and see if it looks any better than that. All right, here we have it on the Enterprise, and again, it's really giving it kind of that overall rusted out kind of look. Looks like something got left out in the cold, and maybe it melted and water got on it, and it's made it a little rusty looking. It does give that nice kind of red look to the deflector, which I do kind of like that. But overall, I'm not a big fan, personally. It reminds me of the stock skin on the Hirogen Heavy Escort is kind of the vibe it's given me. Let's go ahead and take a look at it at another ship. I've only actually used it on one ship, and that was the Juggernaut, Vodwire Juggernaut, and I remember it not looking rusty on that ship. So let's take a look at that. Okay, here we have the Vodwire Juggernaut. Yeah, see, and that's why I thought it kind of had more of that woodish kind of vibe to it, because on this ship, you see some of these darker accents, they kind of have that kind of wood look to it. That must have been why I was thinking that. So we have the red again, and then also on some of the secondary lighting, we have more of a yellow kind of a look on it. Let's go ahead and throw it on one more ship and see how that looks. We'll throw it on a KDF's ship and see how it looks on that. All right, so here we have it on the Vorcha, which I think that looks pretty decent on there. Again, we have kind of that rusted look. I think that really kind of goes to that Klingon theme maybe a little bit better. Especially if you had like maybe one of the older era Klingon ships and you put that on there. It looks like it's been through, some years of battling and not perfect upkeep and that kind of thing. So, I don't know, I got to be honest, guys. I picked up the shield because it was fairly easy to get. As far as vanity shields go, I don't use it very much at all. But again, to each their own. It's really personal preference whether or not you're gonna like this or not. But for me, I don't know. It doesn't really go with kind of the theme and play styles that I like to do. I prefer the more kind of clean and manicured fed look on most of my stuff to a certain degree. So anyhow, so that is the vanity shield. I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to go over. I know there's a lot more stuff in the store, and I don't want to just sit here and read them out to you. Number one, I don't read good out loud, and number two, a lot of times you look at stats and they don't mean a lot until you put them in combination with other things on your build and that kind of thing. So and I don't have much experience with them, so the ones that I went over are things that I've used heavily and I think are worth picking up. As for the rest of it, I just want to be clear, I am not saying that it's not worth picking up. I'm just saying I don't know. So I check that stuff up for yourself, and give it a try and see what you think. If you're doing the daily farming, you got a couple tunes, and you're doing the DOF missions, and you're playing around in the Wonderland a little bit, you should have more than enough ornaments to get the things you want, or have been suggested, and pick up things that you just want to check out and play around with and have fun. So all right guys, well I hope that is helpful. I will most likely be putting this video up tomorrow. Actually it'll be the day after, so the giveaway will be getting pulled on the 22nd, which will be the day after midday. So when this video goes live, I think you'll have a couple hours to still enter. Don't quote me on that if I am incorrect, but you still should have a couple hours to enter that giveaway if you haven't. That's on Discord and on Facebook. The links will be down in the description as well. All right, I think that does it, guys. Until next time, stay safe, and thank you very, very much for watching.